Okay, so I'm going to record this just because there are some people who said they can't make it today, and hopefully, even though there's only 4 people so far here, if we get a nice recording, then I guess we can share it in the future for semesters to come, or not. I don't know. We'll see. So, so thanks for coming. And those of you who are here to learn anything at all about grad school, you're in luck, because in addition to me, we have a PhD student and 3 MA students, and I'm trying to talk and do things at the same time. Let me share my screen. All right, so how to grad school. I started doing this workshop a couple of years ago because I realized I had a lot of students asking me questions all the time, and even when I was an undergrad, like, no one tells you anything, and there's no information out there. And so I guess I wanted to start with that, saying that if you don't know jack about how to go about getting into grad school, or what grad school is like, or anything, then that's okay. You're not really supposed to, because no one tells you. So some of the things that I think we can get into is some reasons to go to grad school for linguists specifically, but we can also talk about other programs, other degrees, if anyone has questions. And then how to go about finding the program that's right for you and applying. How do you apply? What do you need to do? And then funding and what grad school is like. And of course, if you have any other questions, we're here for you. So first, you can do plenty of things with just a bachelor's in linguistics. And in 2 weeks, we're going to have Dr. Anna Marie Trester come and talk about that with her employing linguistics, so careers for folks with degrees in linguistics that are not necessarily graduate degrees, or it's like alternative academia is one of the terms, which I think people don't like that term. I don't like it. But going out into the workforce that's not grad school or academia. But a lot of people are interested in getting a graduate degree, and so there's MA programs, there's PhD programs. Some of them are combined in one, but typically the MA programs are pretty short, 1.5 years, 2 years maybe, and quite fun, and we'll get into more of those details later. A PhD, on the other hand, most of the time you're going to do that after the master's, and that's not short, and it's a lot more work, but we are going to focus mostly on master's programs. So just to kind of give you an overview, as an exemplar, let's look at our own MA program that we have here. So here is the site. So our program, it's Linguistics and TESOL, so Teaching English as a Second Language. And in my opinion, every year kind of gets better and better in terms of quality of students. But anyway, there's all the information that you want to look at here, the courses, faculty, how do you get in, what are the deadlines, that kind of stuff. So, because we're gonna talk about more of this later, because I want you to feel confident going about searching for programs and deciding, which to apply to. So on this page is where we have the admission information. So you can see you need the GRE, 3 letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, a CV. So that kind of gives you a brief overview. There's also a comprehensive exam. You don't have to write a thesis in our program. So when the first step, if you've decided like, okay, I think I want to go to grad school, the first step is obviously finding a program to apply to. And so I think my first piece of advice is have patience and just dedicate some time, treat it like a part-time job, you know, set aside a couple of hours every Tuesday morning or something like that, and just do the work and just see what's out there, do some Googling, but also don't just look at the first few pages of search results on Google. Something that I think is kind of misleading is program titles, right? So if you search for like a master's in sociolinguistics, what's going to come up is pretty limited. But you can still study lots of sociolinguistic-y things in programs that technically are English or applied linguistics or even SLA, second language acquisition. So I could go on and on about some of these examples of different programs and how many years it takes for a program like name change to actually go into effect and things like that. Because, for example, my master's degree was like the actual degree on paper says Master's of English. Okay, so it's just English, but every single class that I took, it was all linguistics, sociolinguistics, historical linguistics, SLA, all that kind of stuff. Now at Missouri, where I went, the program is linguistics, but at the time they hadn't like separated themselves from the English department. So there are so many other examples that are similar to this, right? So just when you're doing the searches, don't limit yourself to just programs that have the right thing in the title. Open it up, expand your search to English, TESOL, linguistics, anthropology even. What else? Did you?
I think something else that I did in terms of like, I also looked at programs that maybe would allow me to pair like a graduate certificate or something. So like if I felt like the course load of like an MA program was like, oh, I wish this had more like sociolinguistic stuff, or I wish it had something that maybe paired with my research idea more, I would see like what kind of graduate certificates they had offered at the university, and like if I was even allowed to combine that with my program.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot of programs have certification programs. So for example, actually, yeah, my master's degree, at first, I just was going to do this 1-year certification thing to be certified to teach English as a second language, but then I was like, no, I'm going to do another year and get the master's. So looking at what kind of certification might be embedded into the program that you get in addition to the degree. So I guess overall, don't just look at the title of the program. Look at, you want to go in and look at the courses that you would be taking. What electives do you have as options? And then I think also looking at the faculty. So there's usually information about the faculty, who's going to be your teachers, what kind of research do they do? So even if the title of the program and some of the course titles look like not really, it's not really your thing, but the faculty, their research sounds like really exciting, they're going to incorporate that kind of stuff into those classes, So if you love sociolinguistics and you have to take a SLA class or a pedagogical theory class or something, you're still going to be able to have opportunities to, explore and do some research, do some assignments related to your interests in some of those classes. So just keep an open mind, And if any program looks like it might be good, then apply. Because worst case scenario, you get accepted and then you tell them no, right? But if you don't apply, then you don't have that option. And then finally, also find out about funding opportunities. I think for some reason, I don't understand it. And if it were up to me, this would not be the case, but it seems like a lot of programs, their websites, don't say anything about funding. I'm sure there's a reason for that. Maybe if I ever get into administration, I'll be like, oh, I get it now. But you might have to actually email somebody. So, you know, take the time to do that, because you don't want to pay for grad school. There should be no student loan debt for after the bachelor's. Like, you should get paid. So let's skip over to that. Actually, this is something that I didn't know as an undergrad. When I tell my undergrads, they're like, "What? Really? Yeah, you don't have to pay for grad school. They pay you, right? So it's a nice deal." Yeah. So like for my master's degree, the tuition was waived. You still have to pay for things like textbooks and parking permits and that kind of stuff. Yeah, but you work like 10 or 20 hours a week doing things like tutoring. I taught a French class in my master's program. I don't know why they let me teach a French class, but they just kind of threw us in. So whatever. And then after teaching French, I got the master's degree that certified me to be a teacher. So that was Missouri, though. Anyway, so usually in master's programs, you'll tutor, work in language labs, do things like there's the grading, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to put it simply, the trade-off, it's kind of like the university gets cheap labor. They get to have the graduate students do kind of like the, I don't want to say the dirty work, but you know, the things like tutoring and grading. So so that's nice for the university, it's nice for the faculty, and it's nice for the graduate students because you get that experience and you get a paycheck. So you get to build up your CV and get experience and get paid. So when you are searching and looking at programs that you might want to apply for, definitely find out about what kind of funding opportunities there are. And I think that like in my case, I got to teach a class. So there are some programs out there where you might get to do more of that. I'm just going to check. Okay. I didn't know if anyone else had joined or if there are any questions. Yeah.
So does this concept mostly apply only for master programs in the United States, or do they also have some programs abroad?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can help with that. I'm not really familiar with how different programs work in other countries, but I'm pretty sure they're very different. I know more about PhD programs like in Great Britain, and they're totally different, but I don't know about masters. Sarah?
Yeah, so I think in the UK and just Europe in general, there's less funding. I don't think you get funding for masters. And then for PhD, it's like you have to apply for scholarships directly. You don't have direct funding packages like you do here, where it's like if you get in, you're guaranteed funding for certain programs. In Canada, I want to say is similar to the US in terms of PhD programs, but I don't know about masters. Like masters, you get partially funded or no funded, or not funded at all. But like fully funded master's programs in Canada, I'm not sure that there are a lot.
Okay. Kevin, can you hear that?
I'm also on the
Okay.
Teams meetings, so all the captions are popping up.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I'm not sure like how this recording quality is going to be, well, but okay, good. Thank you. So there's some similarities and some differences.
Oh, wait, I just
Yeah.
heard something. So I have a friend who's in the process of applying to graduate programs in Europe. Like that's just something he really wants to do. And I definitely think that it's like if you, it's not really like a universal thing. I know like one program that he found, the tuition is like way less than even just being here at USF. It's like in the 2000s like, for a year, which is really pretty good. But like at a university and like the country adjacent, it's like astronomical compared. So I really just think like finding those programs and like they should have some sort of like financial information on those pages. But yeah, I just wanted to add that it's not like, you know,
It's not.
Yeah, you might not need funding that much because it's not going to cost,
Yeah,
you know,
just
it's
boil down
not
to
U.S.
doing your
education.
research and figuring out what fits for you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so any other questions so far? Okay, let me check the chat. Oh, Samantha, hi. Okay, so now that you have selected some programs, some schools that you want to apply for. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, pause 1 second. I was also going to say, obviously, you want to look at, you know, where the place is. So there might be like, oh, I love this program. This is excellent, but it's like in some really cold place that's super rural, and maybe that's going to drive you crazy. So don't go there, you know. So those are things to consider too. If you're going to actually have to move to a new place, make sure you're not going to hate that. And then on that note, I just thought of something else. So this is specifically if you intend to do the whole PhD and then tenure track faculty position. Don't get your PhD where you want to live for the rest of your life. It's a weird thing about academia. We like to kind of change up the gene pool, so to speak, and hire people. You know, programs like to say that we have faculty from all over the world, so they're gonna be less inclined to hire you if you graduated from the same area. That is for tenure track. I'm non-tenure track, so I got a job here. Okay, so now you've decided you've got some programs you want to apply for. Now, what does that look like? So first of all, leave yourself lots of time. Look at what those deadlines are. And I would say the first thing you want to do is ask for letters of recommendation. Because that's putting a burden on someone else. So you don't want to get some of these other things done and then get around to the letters of recommendation and they don't have enough time to write it and you don't get your whole application, all of your materials turned in. So reach out to your recommenders first. And I think, you know, try to, if there's a faculty member that you've had a couple of classes with at least, or who can say that they've seen your work, then try to you know, build up a good relationship with them. I've had students who, you know, they were fine, but they didn't really participate. They didn't really do anything to stand out in class. And then like 2 years later, they're like, hey, Dr. Bridges, can I get a letter of recommendation? I'm like, I barely remember you. Like, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. So, and that's fine. You know, all students are going to have some teachers, some classes where they're not rock stars or whatever. So yeah, pick the people who know you, that you've done well in their classes. I think that's obvious, right? Yeah.
So is that assuming that we go like straight from undergraduate to graduate school? Because for me, like I'm planning on going to like the work first, like interpreting first, like for a few years or whatever. So like, does it, like, do they want like letters of recommendation or like from your workplace or?
No, that's a good question. So your recommenders don't necessarily have to be from like your most recent institution. They don't have to be someone who's known you for a certain amount of time. I think it's kind of good to, if you can, have a little bit of a variety, like maybe someone from USF and someone from your interpreting program and someone from your part-time job or something. But also, if you had 3 USF professors as your 3 recommenders, that's fine too. But no, I've had students who graduated like years ago. They went into the workforce, and now like 3-4 years later, they want to come back and do a master's, and they'll ask me for a letter, and that's fine. There's not like a statute of limitations, so to speak. Yeah. Molly?
Yeah, so I did 3 years I was working between my undergraduate and my master's now. And I want to say USF required at least 1 or 2 of the letters of recommendation be from like academic sources instead of workforce. What I did was I reached out to those professors that I knew me, and I attached my CV. Like, I reintroduced myself just in case they didn't remember me. And then I attached my CV, like, this is some stuff that I've done, like, outside of when you've seen me. And then they were all happy to, like, you know, and I went to USF for my undergraduate too, so, like, I got to meet up with them again, so it's nice.
Yeah. To whatever extent you can, it helps a lot to just make it as easy as possible for your recommender. So when you email them, say things like, if you are able to do this, I've gone ahead and attached my CV, and even like remind them in your language and society class, spring 2021, my project was such and such, and you know, things that like specific things that can be mentioned in the letter, where I can be like, oh yeah, Emma's project on the churches.
Okay.
Yeah. And tell like a story about how much work you put into collecting the data and how great your analysis was. And
it was very like I'm writing my own like letter, you know. I don't know. It just
I've heard of some students that told me that they've asked people for letters of recommendation, and that they actually ask them to write the letter for them.
interesting.
Which just, it's like, is that like a nice exercise for the student to like learn, or is it just like, I'm lazy, I'm busy, you do it for me, I'll sign it?
I had a professor do that, and where he was like, oh, can you just write it for yourself and send it to me, and then I'll send it into the institution? I was like, no. I was like, I can't write about myself like that. Like, I feel like, I don't know, there's just, I think if he had been like, okay, you need to, or you won't get my letter of recommendation, I was like, I think I would have, but he asked if I could, and I was like, I don't think I can. Like, I feel like awkward doing it, and so then he was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Just give me some time. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was. I felt bad saying that, but I was like, I don't know if I can do
Well,
that.
it's a specific genre. I mean, I had to learn how to write letters of recommendation, and I enjoy it, but it's much more enjoyable when the student is, you know, sends me as much information as they can, you know, what the program is about, when the deadline is, why they want to be in that program, and some documents like their CV or statement of purpose, whatever you have. It could be helpful. So, oh yeah, and I put get for. So if you can, I think it's a good idea to ask 4 people for letters. Just in case one person misses the deadline, you're not going to have an incomplete application, right? Sarah?
And also giving faculty enough time to write those letters of recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Once you have your list of programs or schools you want to apply to, I would say, like, as soon as that's done, like, let them know, because they are busy and they're going to need time to write a thoughtful one. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if imagine someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I need you to write a paper for me in 3 days, and where you make me sound really responsible and reliable, you know, I'm just not compelled to write a letter saying how, you know, this student is responsible and reliable when they gave me 3 days to get this done, and my to-do list is, yeah, so do that first. Start with requesting letters of recommendation. You can also always say, like, I'm working on my CV, and when I get that put together, I'll send it over to you. So you don't have to, like, wait until those are perfect to be able to send them to your recommenders. Now, besides the letters of recommendation, usually you have to do an application form just to the university or the graduate college. So that's just for admissions. So that's usually like just very like run-of-the-mill kind of straightforward stuff. And you might have to like write something in a text box, but usually like don't stress about that. That's just for the university. The actual search committee for the program that you're applying to will most likely not even see that stuff. So that just, the university kind of filters it through, and then it's the actual documents that the search committee will look at. And those are almost always, you're going to be required to turn in a CV, your transcripts, and at least references. So it might just ask for references. I think especially for PhD programs, I think for master's programs, they're going to ask for letters of recommendation. But for some PhD programs, they might have like 2 different parts where there's no need to write recommendation letters yet. You need to make that first cut. So if they narrow it down, and then there's a smaller pool of applicants to look at, then they'll email the references that you gave and request a letter of recommendation. Does that make sense? So anyway, so there's at least that, but typically, in addition to that, you're also going to have to write a statement of purpose or a personal statement, or there's some other names for it. Maybe a writing sample, and then probably test scores. So if you are an international student, a non-native speaker, they'll require the TOEFL or something, but otherwise, the GRE, although I think, okay, so at least our program, I think most universities, when the pandemic started, they waived the GRE as a requirement. Then most universities started bringing it back. I think, did y'all have to take the GRE? You didn't?
I did.
You did?
Like some programs like required it still.
Mm-hmm.
So I just took it and I was like, I've got it done. It lasts 5 years. So like if you take it for a master's program and then like you go to apply for PhD, like unless it's gonna up your scores or something, you probably would have to take it again. Yeah.
Yeah, so look on the website, because if there's maybe 3 programs that you want to apply for and you get lucky and all 3 of those don't require the GRE, then don't take it, because it's like $300 or something and it's awful. Also, this is probably not likely for master's programs unless you're going to do a master's in a certain language. If you want to do a master's in Spanish or French, then you might have to take a foreign language proficiency test, such as the ACTFL OPI or something. For some PhD programs, I think for ours, you have to show proficiency in 2 other languages.
I think it's one.
Just one?
Just one.
Okay, yeah, the SLATE program, the SLATE program was a second language proficiency and then at least novice level in a 3rd language. But I know that there were people that never turned in that 3rd language thing and they graduated. So anyway, so these are some things that you might have to spend time on before that deadline. So like I said at the beginning, you have to treat it like a part-time job because there's a lot of time involved in just preparing, get those applications turned in. Now, do we want to talk about the statement of purpose or CVs? Because we can. Yeah, okay. So let's see, I think.
Really quick, I was curious about the letters of recommendation. So I do want to take like a small gap year before I start my master's program. But I kind of feel weird about asking a professor that I haven't interacted with in a while for their letter of recommendation. So do you guys have any recommendations for keeping in contact with professors that you want to stay in contact with without it being a weird thing or something?
I'd say just say that. Just be honest. Say, look, I'm not gonna jump straight into grad school. I've got some other plans, but I am thinking about going to grad school in a while, and I'd like to stay in touch with you. And I might be asking you for a letter of recommendation in a couple of years. I have some students that send me an email every 4 or 6 months or something and just update me. And I'm just waiting for one of those emails one day to be like, I need the letter of recommendation now. So it's totally fine. It's nice. I mean, this is what we do. I know when I was a student, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to ask someone for their time and energy. But now I get it from this side. It's like, that's what we're here for. Come to us. And even after you've graduated, we like hearing from the alumni, what you're up to, and always thrilled, oh, you're gonna go to grad school, awesome, I love it. What can I do to help? So don't be afraid to ask. Worst case scenario, someone ignores your email or writes back and says no. But you have to do the work and put yourself out there and stay in touch. So, yeah. Anyone else have any? Yeah.
It's a weird situation because my program was really small, but a couple of the professors, when I was talking to them and they wanted to stay in touch, we were Facebook friends for a while. So it was that was just the contact of just being oh, I like your post or whatever. And then it made me oh, when I decided to go to grad school, I was okay, I can ask them because they've seen what I've been up to, Yeah.
That makes sense.
And also just adding to what Doctor said, most of the time, once you establish that relationship with your professors, they do come through for you. So I don't know if you heard, but I basically applied to grad school in 3 cycles. Because initially it was for an English PhD, then a linguistics PhD, and then finally a linguistics master's. So through all those cycles, after 8 months, I'm hi, I am applying to grad school again. It's probably going to be the same letters of recommendation, but I need you to send them in to these websites. And they were yeah, of course. And then they gave me more advice hey, you need to change this in your personal statement, add more stuff that you've been doing lately. So I think just keeping in contact, and letting them know where you're going, what your plans are, does help.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, Emma, were you thinking more CVs or a statement of purpose?
Statement of purpose.
Yeah. Okay. That's the hard one. I mean, a CV, I think you list everything that you've done. It shows a, timeline of who you are, right? So this is a former USF undergrad. They gave me their permission to use this. So this is a nice looking CV, even like, the white spaces and everything, nothing like crazy, keep it nice and neat, kind of clinical looking even. I know it's tempting for some of us to like, let's do pink and curly fonts and stuff, but there's differences between a resume and a CV, right? And so CVs are, they should look kind of boring. They should look like it's just easy for the eyeballs to go over it and get an idea of who you are. And also, unlike resumes that can be like 1 page long, CVs they can go on and on and on. The longer, yeah, put everything on there. Put this workshop on there. Like anything that you've done that has helped shaped who you are as a scholar right now. You wrote a paper, you did a project, you collected data. Like you could have seminar papers as a section header and list the research projects that you've done, because that is experience that's contributed to what you've done, Okay, and I'm going to share a box folder with you guys, and I think in there I put my CV from when I was in my master's program. Yeah, what that looked like. I have that version saved somewhere, and it was like not this impressive.
Wait, that's from a master's program?
This one is actually, they were an undergrad student, but yeah. Okay. One of those like super high achieving kind of people that just was in everything and
Mine.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, mine didn't look like this either. Don't worry. But you can see how they put just all kinds of stuff, okay? You can put, don't limit yourself. You can put anything that's academic that has helped, that you've learned from, that's led to, who you are now. Put it on there.
Is this uploaded somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to share the link to a box folder, which, sorry, I know this is kind of messy. I don't know where it went. Whatever. I'm going to share these with you. You can see the CVs. I have some sample statements of purpose, but they are all for the PhD program. I don't have any at the master's level.
Can you just like explain more, maybe like what people are looking for?
Yeah, so what is a statement of purpose? You're basically saying like why you want to be in the program, why you picked that program, where you see yourself going after the program, like what's this degree going to do for you? Like I want to go to USF and get this master's degree because here are my goals, and I'm interested in USF because you can always name drop, say something like Dr. Vasquez's research is really inspirational and I'd love to learn more from her, things like that. But then also tell some stories. Say, for example, in my language and society class, an assignment that we did really, inspired me and made me realize how much I love doing research and how important it can be. And, so don't do a paragraph form of your CV. Those are bad statements of purpose, where it's just like, I did this and then I did this. And a lot of people do that. And it's so boring to read. Tell a story, show who you are. And don't focus too much on the past stuff. Keep it focused mostly on, you know, the present, the here and now, and your goals for the future. How do you see yourself in that program?
Is it kind of like showing them where you're going so that they can put their brand on wherever you end up? You know, like.
Well, I mean, yeah, in a way.
Like,
If
I'm
you,
just trying to like feel like what they're assessing in the statement of purpose.
yeah, for sure. So no one wants to accept a student into a program that is going to have trouble graduating, or they're going to end up dropping out. They want to feel good that if you get into the program, you're going to do the work and you're going to graduate. And then, but then also, yeah, if it's like, ooh, this person is amazing and they're going to go, you know, get a job at Georgetown or something, and that'll make USF look good. Yeah, of course, the branding is a thing, but you don't need to think that far ahead in your statement of purpose. I don't think you need to try to sell yourself in that way. Just show who you are. Like I said, start with the here and the now. Who are you? Why are you applying? Show your passion. Tell a story.
I feel like that's why it stresses me out, is because I do feel like I'm selling myself.
Mm-hmm.
I am good and smart, you should take me.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of awkward. It's in the interview, the statement of purpose, the CV, your LinkedIn profile. All of these things are kind of, yeah, it's self-promotion, right? It feels a little narcissistic, but that's what it is. And if you don't, if you hedge, if you downplay yourself, then that's not going to look good. So you got to kind of step outside your comfort zone and be like, look at me, look how amazing I am.
Yeah.
You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that way when I wrote my statement of purpose. I think one thing to focus on is just the fact that you sincerely want this as like a career path, because that's what I did. I was like, this is what I studied, this is what I've done, and then like anything linguistically, like I mentioned. And then, so you don't have to be like, I'm amazing, but you can be like, this is something that I really want, and then that can work instead, like if you don't feel comfortable.
And like to add to that, I think it's also like I made separate. I don't know if this is like something that came up. I made separate statement of purposes for each program that I applied for.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of have like a template of like an idea that you use across them, but like so for ones that I applied to that were more like research heavy and like thesis bound or PhD programs I applied to, like I specified like what maybe research question I wanted to answer, or like I went through faculty list and like mentioned a faculty member that I was interested in working with because their research is relevant to my interests in some way. I don't know, like there's a lot of resources out there about writing statement of purposes and like maybe structures that they say like are better than others, but it is kind of like just showing that you have a connection to this field and that like you do want this, because that is really like when you mentioned assessing, like that's what they're assessing. It's like seeing that you're willing to put in that effort, like Dr. Bridges said.
Yeah, and that you have that sense of direction where you're like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And that you're a good fit for the specific program that you're applying for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because if you want to do sociolinguistics, but you're applying to like just a TESOL program, like, and you don't mention that.
like part of the reason why you want to pick like really specific programs, like this is the one that I really want to go to, right, is that in your statement of purpose, you're able to kind of narrow yourself down to like, this is why at this university that I picked, I'm going to be a good fit for y'all, and also you're going to get something good from me as well, right? Like you'll benefit from me being there, I'll benefit from being here, right? So it's like a mutual kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's that's good advice. Yeah, show that you're gonna fit in. We've had some people like apply for the Law's PhD program, and they put in their statement how they're interested in like neurolinguistics or historical linguistics, and it's just like, what? Why are you wasting your time and hours? Like, we don't do that here, so I don't think you're gonna like it. I mean, I guess thanks for being honest, but anyway, this is one, and like I said, it's for a PhD program, but I think it's the same kind of thing. PhD programs might expect a little bit more experience and visions of research interests, whereas the MA program, you can kind of just be like, I'm interested in studying this field more generally. You know, you don't need to be super specific, but still you can see how they kind of introduce themselves. I'm confident in my ability to succeed. That's nice. And then telling some stories, like when I did this under Dr. Hench, I did, you know, here's some of my experiences that you want to highlight off of your CV, right? To show that you're not just saying that you've done something, you're showing how you did it, right? Okay. And this is in the box folder, and I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I can add to this. So I'll get your email addresses. Those of you joining us on Teams, if you want access to that box folder, just put your email address in the chat, or just say yes, please, and I'll find you so you can have that box folder access. Any questions though about like once you get into the program, what is it like? It's totally different from undergrad, right? It's like you don't have 5 classes with totally different people in each class. It's like a little family. You're probably going to have the same classmates in every class. You typically have, it's 9 hours is full time. So you have 3 credit hour classes, because you're also expected to work if you have the assistantship. And it's like, whereas in the undergrad, you have to take core courses and then you get the fun electives. Grad school is like just the fun electives. Well, maybe a couple of boring core courses sometimes, but yeah, are there any questions, or our current students, do you want to share any info on those experiences so far? Is it hard? Is it easy to be a grad student?
I think, like, for me personally, I come from a teaching undergraduate, so some of the stuff I know, because this program also focuses on teaching, but personally, like, it's more work than my undergraduate was, just in the sense of, like, there's a lot of readings and stuff. I don't have a linguistics background, so, like, certain classes are harder for me, especially, like, certain textbooks that, like, expect me to know certain things. So, like, I have to put in a lot of effort to, like, actually read the textbooks, which I didn't do in undergraduate. So it's, like, learning those strategies for me more. But it's not something where it's, like, too much work. I really like it.
It's not necessarily more work, it's spread out in a different way.
Yeah.
You have to kind of figure out a new time management routine.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the biggest thing that I had to learn was how to be organized. Is not a naturally organized person, so I had to kind of train myself to, you know, keep all of the information in folders where I can access them and have specific places where I can have readings, and I have my notes on those readings. And I just kind of developed those strategies over time, and they help make the workload more manageable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it wasn't until I was in the PhD program that I had to like come up with some kind of systematic way to organize everything, because it just suddenly became a lot. Because you're taking classes, you have assignments, homework, you have to write papers, you got to read, got to show up. And then you're teaching classes too, so you have to do lesson planning and grading and dealing with students and their issues and everything. It's fun, but it's a lot. Yeah.
I'd say it's more academically intensive and that you're going deeper into the field and talking about like more issues. But that is, like, I love that though. Like that's why I wanted to come and really glad. So that's been a really rewarding part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you kind of scratch the surface in undergrad, and then you get to sit together for 2 hours and 45 minutes and get really deep into these awesome topics, and it's just nerd out about language with like-minded people. What were you going to say, Sean?
I was just going to say, I don't know if anybody here is thinking about getting a PhD also, but if you are, it's kind of like a master's degree, just more research oriented. And so all of the work that you're doing is kind of directed towards publication, presenting at conferences, ultimately determining a subject for your dissertation. So it's kind of more focused on the research dimension and preparing you essentially to be a professional in that field at a university somewhere.
Yeah, and I think in PhD programs, there's more collaboration and one-on-one work with professors. Yeah.
I definitely noticed that there was a dip, because my master's degree is in English, and I kind of, my expectation was, oh, it'll just be that, but like a little bit more work. But it was just so different. It's a very different kind of work, I guess, and the expectations are a little bit different. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think something else that comes up in a lot of orientations for graduate programs is it's very, very common to have imposter syndrome. Because people come from different universities. They had different professors teaching them a slightly different viewpoint of a certain topic. And you listen to them talk in class and you're like, I don't know anything about that. Am I supposed to know that? I'm like, no, you know a whole bunch of stuff that they don't know because you came from a different university and got a certain perspective. So it's easy to kind of be like, do I belong here? But if you get accepted into the program, it's because the faculty, they believe that you should be there. So so whenever that happens, at any point, I'm talking to y'all, just know that it's a thing, but push it away, because you're supposed to be here.
It's really bad in certain ways of like, everyone in the program has different goals. So like, sometimes I feel like, oh my God, like, they're my friends and like, they're really into research, but I'm not, I don't want to do PhD, but they do. And so sometimes it's just like, I feel impossible, like, am I supposed to be here? Like, I don't want to do PhD. It's good, but the thing is like, then we go to our like teaching English class.
And then Molly's stellar, and we're like, what are we doing here?
So it's just, everyone has different,
everyone brings different things to the table.
Which is, it's really fun in the program to like have those conversations.
So something else I think it's important to remember when it comes to imposter syndrome, because inevitably it will happen, it will come out, is something that I try to remind myself of all the time, which is that like, you're in the program to learn, right? If you already knew how to do everything, they should just hand you the degree and then you should go get a job somewhere. So it's actually a good thing that you don't know, right? Because then you get to have the experience of learning how to do it. And that's like the whole point. So
Yeah, and I think another difference with a MA and a PhD program, I think once you get to that doctoral level, you're expected to be a lot more proactive. That was something, it took me a couple of years to figure that out. I was like, no one's telling me to try to present at a conference, so I'm not going to. But you have to kind of do those things. It's the time to build up your CV, because you think the dissertation's hard, try the job search. That's hard. But that's way off, way ahead in the future for you guys. You're just at the master's stage, just have fun, because it's fun. You learn a lot, and it's not terribly hard. I don't know of many master's programs where people are like, oh, that kicked my butt, like that was so hard. Like they're fun. PhDs, those are hard. Are y'all disagreeing? Maybe.
PhDs are definitely challenging.
I think like a difference between undergraduate and graduate for me is that there's a lot less hand-holding, like especially with because I did some research in my undergraduate as well, and it was like, okay, turn in this, and now it's just like, you have this paper due at the end of the semester.
Oh my
it's 20 pages, and
we haven't started.
we haven't started it yet. So it's like, because with my undergraduate, they're like, all right, you need to turn in this section of it, but now it's just, you're expected to, manage your time.
Yeah, here you go.
We haven't been doing too well. What will we find?
But it just happens. Okay,
Yeah.
And this is something I wanted to say earlier when, I don't know who said it, it's like a little family, especially with programs like this one. We are all we're close, we hang out, and
Oops.
it's just you always have someone where if you're struggling and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what classes I'm taking next semester, what about this assignment, what about this one? You always have someone. And I think that's one of the things that I've appreciated the most in grad school is I have the community and the professors, they're super, we have such small classes, we have this little, we're on the screen.
I'm not showing, I don't have any more PowerPoints or anything, so I thought I'd at least turn it around.
Yeah, I got into 2 PhD programs, and the other one was at the University of Arizona, and it's a fairly large kind of interdisciplinary program, and there are many associated faculty from different departments and that kind of thing. Lots, pages and pages of people who are in the graduate program, and then I looked at this program, and it was 5 teachers, a smaller number of students, and I was like, that's the one that I want, right? Because when you have this smaller cohort, I think you form closer connections with people, and also you get more, because you get to have the same friends over and over.
Oops.
And so you get to kind of form those connections. So the size of the program is also something to think about. Do you want a large program where you're going to get have lots of colleagues and lots of instructors, or a smaller program where maybe those connections will be a little bit closer?
So it is 1:00, and this workshop was scheduled to end at 1:00. So if anyone has to go somewhere, then you are free to go. However, if there are more questions, and that pertains to y'all, you can leave if you need to, if you want to. But if there are more questions, I'll keep the recording going, and I'm here to answer them. But otherwise, look out for the email for the box folder, and thanks for attending, and have a great weekend. So, Emma, Kevin, any more questions? Do you feel a little better?
Is there any I guess more logistical stuff that you guys have questions about, the actual application? I think that was the part that was most scary for me, was
creating a long piece of paper with like all the deadlines, all the requirements for each thing, making sure I put making sure I put the emails for all my recommenders. I just didn't know if there's anything that's
Specifically that you wanted.
I feel like for me, it's more just like shit, did I really do anything in undergraduate? You know?
Okay. I can relate to that because I didn't do anything in undergraduate and somehow I am still here. But what helped me a lot was like, I know you're talking about maybe doing work after and then going. That helped me. I think that's what pushed me like to be able to get in. Like, I made sure to like include like, because my undergraduate had like internships or whatever because I was teaching. So I just put those on even though it's like implied in my program. Just anything that you can throw on there. I wasn't in any clubs. I wasn't like presenting anything, but the work experience I think really helps.
Yeah, and actually I was talking about this with Jeremy yesterday, that linguistics itself as like a program, it's still developing very much. 10 years ago, it was unheard of for an undergraduate program to offer linguistics. If you wanted to study linguistics, you had to wait till you were in grad school. And then even then, it was usually housed in the Department of like Modern Languages or English or something like that. So because of that, the master's programs, it's not necessarily expected that everyone coming in is going to have any background in linguistics, because there's not a lot of universities still that offer a major or even a minor in linguistics, maybe a class here and there. I didn't know what linguistics was when I graduated from Ole Miss. I had no idea. It wasn't until like after my master's degree that I was like, oh, my undergraduate thesis was a sociolinguistic study. Who knew? I had no idea. I was looking at the minority languages in southern France and ideologies and stuff like that. But not anywhere in that whole document does word linguistics come up. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, there's going to be people from different backgrounds, and also like the title of the program might not even have the word linguistics in it. But that don't worry if you feel like you don't have any like linguistic-y things to put on your CV, because you have your own experiences, and that's going to look good.
Yes. Yes. It's also, that kind of goes with the imposter syndrome thing. Like, you're your worst critic, and is it best critic? Whatever, it doesn't matter. But like you gotta just kind of put that aside for a little bit and just put yourself on that application and like show what you can. Because I was kind of on the same thing with Molly. Like, I did have a little bit of research I did with a thesis in my undergrad, but besides that, I was like, I felt like what I did wasn't enough, even though I did have that thesis, and I think that it did have an impact on like my applications. But I think like not comparing yourself to other people's applications as well is really important. Because like this is you. They're not looking at you along. Well, they might, but it's you, and that's all. That you can only do like what you have on their CVs.
Wait to start on the imposter syndrome until you at least get into the program.
I feel like after I get in, then it's like, well, I also got accepted, so I guess maybe it was a fluke, but.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna shut this down. Last chance. Any questions, Stephanie or Jeremy? Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for coming. And email me if I can help with anything. Okay, stop recording.